Welcome to Knife Thoughts. This video is going to be a review of this knife, and this is the Tyger Auto K7. So this is a knife that if you follow, the knife market, you might think is familiar looking, and that is because it is actually the same model as the Kaiser Cyberblade. And so when I saw this knife, Tyger Auto actually reached out and asked if I would be interested in reviewing some of their knives. When I saw this knife, I thought, either this is a copy, a counterfeit basically, or it is, a rebranded, made by Kaiser Cyberblade. And the Cyberblade is a knife that I have actually been interested in for a while just because it is so unique looking. And so I asked Kaiser and they said, yes, this is made by them and branded for Tyger Auto. So Tyger Auto is a company that makes car, automobile accessories, and I'm not a big car person. I don't really, get into accessories on my car. As long as it gets me where I need to go, that's pretty much all I ask of it. But I know a lot of people really like cars and like getting accessories for them. And I think that there's definitely some intersection between people who appreciate cars and people who appreciate knives, and especially EDC in general. So just having tools on you that allow you to, be prepared for whatever comes your way. So I said, to Tyger Auto, I'd be interested in checking this out. And I actually had a little bit of a mix up and told them the wrong model, the K4. So I did do a review of that also, which you can check out. But this is the K7. So this is a really interesting little knife. It has a liner lock, as you can see. It locks up well pretty early, a little earlier than I typically prefer. But I haven't had it, not lock at all, and it seems to do well enough with pressure on the spine, and also with a spine whack test. Now it also came well centered. You can see that it's pretty well centered there, and no play side to side or forward and back. I haven't adjusted the pivot at all. I did take the clip off. So this is the clip that comes with this knife here, and it had a lot of tension. So I did bend it a little bit and then have to take it off and put it back on. An interesting thing, I don't know if this is how I put it back on, but if you can see here, the clip doesn't actually sit all the way down. I don't really think that I bent the clip enough that it would cause that to happen. So I think that's just how it came. I don't recall, I did do an unboxing video of this, so you can check that out. But it's interesting because there is no recessing on that clip to fit the screw head. And, because the clip is bent there, it kind of hits before the screw sits all the way down against the flat of the clip. So an interesting thing there, not really a practical issue, especially if you put some Loctite on it, but just something to be aware of. Then there is a glass breaker. Now the glass breaker, I'm not sure how well you could use this glass breaker because it is such a short knife. If you hold it here, this edge, this corner is really in your thumb. So I don't really know how well you could break glass with that. Of course, my neighbor has decided that right now is the time to do some mowing. So you'll probably hear some mowing in the background. But you could certainly try. I haven't tried this glass breaker. I haven't thankfully had any need for a glass breaker recently, or honestly ever. But it's a nice thing to have if you really needed it. Now the opening method of this knife is really interesting because really there's kind of two opening methods. You can definitely get your finger into this hole here, but you have to make sure that you just flick it. It's easy, as you saw there, to have your finger go kind of through this, and then you're going to stop yourself from opening the knife the whole way. But if you just flick, you can middle finger flick this. Now in the front there is this thumb ramp, thumb triangle, whatever we want to call it, but it's G10, and it actually came with a two-sided version on the blade, and then also a red version. But I thought that I would like it without the two-sided, two sides to it, so I put this one-sided version on, and it works well actually. Wasn't really sure how the opening would work on this, but it seems to work really well. You can't really get your thumb all the way down into the hole here in the front, but you can use that stud and open it pretty nicely. Now, as you can see when open, this kind of does look like a, you know, very like futuristic truck, maybe like a cyber truck, something like that. Has a very interesting look to it. It has this Tonto, very modern Tonto blade with a very kind of straight, almost straight upwards edge, and then a, you know, typical straight edge here. Both pretty tall grind, so they're not super thick behind the edge as sometimes Tontos are. So it does cut well. I didn't use this knife a whole lot, to be honest, because it is so strange basically. But I used it some and it seemed to cut pretty well. I think that if you're gonna get this knife, you should get it mostly because it's interesting, because it's different, not necessarily for it being the world's most practical knife. But from a practical standpoint, I think you can think of it like a box opener basically. So you can use that point there from the two edges coming together to do really good pull or push cuts, and with this, you know, upward turned edge, you can really do good kind of easy scraping cuts. So if you needed to scrape something off of your car or truck or whatever, or open up your Tyger Auto accessory boxes, you know, this would be good for that. I don't think it's a super good like everyday food prep knife, like if you're at your office or whatever, cut your sandwich open. I don't really think it's a tactical knife at all. As EDC, I think you could EDC this, but it's pretty tall. So I'm gonna give you some size comparisons here closed, because it is a pretty wide knife in the pocket. So here it is compared to a Civivi Elementum, and then a Spyderco Native 5. And then in comparison, the length, you know, it's a very wide knife, but it doesn't have a very long blade. So the Native 5 has a big finger choil, and you can see that it still has more blade length than the K7. And the Elementum, that's not what we're comparing. The Elementum has a lot more. So, you know, both longer knives. The K7 is a relatively short knife. It's just pretty tall also. So not the easiest knife to carry for the amount of blade length that you are getting. So like I said, I think that this knife is a very interesting knife. It's not one that I probably will carry super often beyond getting used to it for reviewing it, just because it is so weird. It's not super ergonomic in the hand for me, just because this area here is too small for 2 fingers for me. I think some people could probably fit 2 fingers there, but for me it's too small for 2 fingers. It is a little big for 1 finger, so that my middle finger sits right on this corner, and then the glass breaker sits right in the palm of my hand. So not the most comfortable handle out there. It is a unique looking handle, but not the most comfortable. Certainly a blade shape that would work well for certain EDC tasks, like opening boxes and scraping and push cutting and such, but not the most versatile of blade shapes, I would say, because it is so tall. And you can definitely open it easily with this thumb stud, but it's not like a super fidgety knife either. You can see it does drop closed, but just because it is an unusual shape, I don't really consider it to be a super fidgety knife. Every now and then I would get my or my middle finger stuck in the blade when I did that. But very interesting, very different, and I have enjoyed getting to check it out. It's always interesting to see a knife that, you know, it's like, you know, it's very well made, it's very interesting, it's very different. It's just not really something that you would carry super frequently, and that's the case here with this Tyger Auto K7. So if you want a super futuristic looking little kind of stubby knife, good option. If you want a very like broadly practical EDC knife, maybe not your best option, but either way, I have enjoyed getting to check it out. So thanks to Tyger Auto for sending this along. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, click the bell, and select all so you know when I post new videos. I've got lots of other reviews and more coming all the time. Also, check out my social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Knife Thoughts, and my website, knifethoughts.com, where I post articles on knives like this and knife-related topics. And last but not least, as always, don't forget to go out and do good.